Umbra's head crunched under Kyle Scorer's powerful kick, green brain matter splattering the human's prison uniform, as the undefeated Benzite champion collapsed into a twitching heap. Kyle stood over the massive alien's corpse as the arena fell silent. He had easily crushed the Benzite's greatest fighter. Minutes earlier, Kyle had been escorted in cuffs through the crowded alien coliseum. Armed guards of the Benzite Empire, a vicious race who saw themselves as the galaxy's apex predators, shoved the shackled human towards the combat pit. Stripped to just a tattered orange jumpsuit, the 32-year-old former UFC champion showed no fear as he was unshackled before the hulking Umbra. The 7-foot reptilian Benzite roared to the cheering spectators, its rippling muscles flexing as razor teeth flashed. From an elevated balcony, the Benzite Emperor gestured for quiet. This puny earthling is the latest challenger to face Umbra in a duel to the death, part of our glorious conquest of the Earth territories, the monarch bellowed. If the human loses, I shall order 5 more of their colonies destroyed by neutron bombardment. Umbra let out a bellowing laugh, glaring down at Kyle. I will snap your spine like a twig, you pathetic runt. The human simply cracked his neck, ice-blue eyes blazing as he met the monster's gaze. Shut up and fight. Her deep gong reverberated through the arena. Umbra exploded forward in a green blur, talons extended to eviscerate. Kyle pivoted, dodging by a hair's breadth. The human talked, driving his elbow like a battering ram into Umbra's spine as the alien hurtled past. The Benzite champion staggered, momentarily stunned by the blow. With an enraged roar, he spun and launched a hurricane of slashes and kicks at the earthling. Kyle ducked and deflected each strike, his blocks becoming vicious counters targeting Umbra's joints and nerves with pinpoint strikes. The arena crowd watched in shocked silence as a mere human lasted seconds, then a full minute against their greatest warrior. Umbra's onslaught intensified, his attacks wild and furious, but Kyle flowed like water, evading and pummeling the alien's weak points with ruthless precision. Umbra crouched and vaulted high, talons poised to slash down and tear Kyle apart. The human timed his counter perfectly, rising to smash his knee directly into the Benzite's jaw with a horrific crunch. Umbra crashed to the ground and laid still. Kyle approached cautiously and kicked the body over, seeing the alien's head lolling at an unnatural angle. Its neck had snapped. "Yield!" Kyle barked up at the Emperor. "Your warrior is dead." The human's demand was met with stunned silence. Kyle retrieved Umbra's dagger and flung it with blinding speed to pierce the Emperor's ornate throne, a centimeter from his skull. Benzite guards rushed forward, but Kyle snarled, "The next throw opens your throat unless you yield. Immediately!" The Emperor raised a trembling hand, signaling his guards to stop. "We yield," the Emperor stammered, his arrogance replaced by utter shock. "Release all Terran prisoners now and stand down your forces," Kyle barked at the Emperor, his voice echoing through the arena. "The war is over." The Emperor's face twisted in barely suppressed fury, but he nodded stiffly to his guards. "Very well, we shall comply with your demands." As the monarch seethed on his throne, Kyle turned and strode towards the exit, his back straight and head held high. Just as Kyle reached the archway, a colossal force slammed into the back of his skull. Blinding pain exploded through his head as he crumpled to the ground, consciousness fading to black. Kyle awoke with a groan, his vision swimming. He tried to move but found his arms and legs bound by heavy chains. As his eyes adjusted to the gloom, he saw a figure standing before him, bathed in shadows. "Welcome back to the land of the living, human," Umbra spat, limping forward. The Benzite scales were cracked and oozing emerald ichor, but he was very much alive. Kyle stared in shock as Umbra loomed over him, reptilian eyes glinting with malice. "You didn't really think you'd beaten me so easily, did you?" Umbra hissed, green blood dripping from his maw. "I let you win, fool. I wanted you to feel the ecstasy of victory before I crushed your spirit utterly." Kyle strained against the chains with all his strength, muscles burning as he fought to break free. But the bonds held fast, unyielding. Umbra let out a rasping chuckle. "The Emperor has already broadcast to the galaxy that you used dishonorable trickery and cheated in our match. The war will continue, and your treachery will be punished." The alien's voice dropped to a menacing whisper. "Even now, the Emperor's dreadnoughts are en route to Earth. Your homeworld will burn." Kyle roared in fury, thrashing against his restraints like a man possessed, but it was futile. Umbra watched his struggles with a cruel smile. "And you, my human champion, you will remain here as my personal slave for my amusement." Umbra's eyes flashed with sadistic glee. "When your Earth is nothing more than a smoking ruin, I will make you watch the recordings of its destruction over and over, until your sanity shatters." With a final mocking laugh, Umbra turned and lumbered out of the cell. The door slammed shut with a resounding clang, plunging Kyle into total darkness. He slumped against the cold stone wall, his ragged breathing the only sound in the black. Kyle gritted his teeth, ignoring the white-hot agony searing through his body as he dragged himself across the rough stone floor. His fingers scrabbled in the darkness until they closed around a jagged shard of rock. Gripping it like a drowning man clutching driftwood, Kyle sawed at the chains with a feverish intensity, heedless of the metal biting into his wrists. Sparks danced in the gloom as he worked, illuminating the blood and sweat streaking his face. Minutes stretched into hours, each swing of his makeshift blade sapping more of his fading strength. Just as blackness started creeping into the edges of his vision, Kyle felt a link give way with a soft clink. Rejuvenated, he attacked the chains with renewed vigor, the stone now slick with his blood. One by one the links shattered under his relentless assault, until finally the manacles fell away. Kyle lurched to his feet, his ravaged muscles screaming in protest. He staggered to the cell door, barely able to lift his arms. Gritting his teeth, Kyle rammed his shoulder into the unyielding metal. Pain exploded through his body, but he pushed through it, hurling himself against the door again and again. On the fifth bone-jarring impact, the hinges buckled with a screech and the door crashed open. Kyle tumbled into the corridor, sprawling on the ground as alarms started wailing. Hauling himself up, he limped forward, each step pure agony. Rounding a corner, he found himself face to face with two benzite sentries. The guards gaped at him in shock, momentarily frozen. Moving with speed he didn't know he still possessed, Kyle lunged forward and buried the jagged stone in the first guard's throat, crushing his windpipe. As the benzite crumpled gurgling, his partner fumbled for his sidearm. Kyle crashed into him before he could draw, tackling him to the floor. He drove the rock into the guard's eye with a brutal thrust, feeling the orb burst under the blow with a wet pop. Leaving the two bodies leaking emerald ichor on the ground, Kyle grabbed a fallen plasma rifle. His blue eyes blazed with barely contained fury as he marched into the depths of the alien fortress, singular purpose driving him forward. Umbra would pay for his betrayal. This ended now. Kyle stormed through the alien stronghold like a man possessed, plasma rifle spitting blue-white bolts of destruction. Benzite soldiers fell before him in droves, emerald blood painting the walls as he cut a swath of carnage towards the command center. Alarms blared and emergency lights flashed, bathing the corridors in pulsing crimson. Kyle's breath came in ragged gasps, every movement sending fresh waves of agony through his battered body. But he pushed onward, an unstoppable force of human vengeance. At last he burst into the command center, the heavy blast doors exploding inward under a barrage of plasma fire. Umbra whirled from the view screen, eyes widening in shock as he saw the blood-soaked human standing in the smoking ruins of the entrance. "Impossible," the alien hissed, clenching his fists. "You should be rotting in chains." Kyle leveled the rifle at Umbra's head, finger tightening on the trigger. "I broke those chains just like I'm going to break you." With a roar, Umbra charged, a green blur of raw savagery. Kyle fired, but the alien juked aside with blinding speed, the plasma bolts sizzling past harmlessly. Umbra crashed into Kyle like a freight train, sending the rifle clattering away. They hit the ground hard, a tangle of thrashing limbs and hammering fists. Kyle drove his knee into Umbra's groin, feeling something rupture. The alien snarled in pain and rage, slamming Kyle's head against the deck plating. Stars exploded across his vision. Rolling apart, the two combatants surged to their feet, squaring off like ancient gladiators. They launched themselves at each other, trading blows that cracked bone and pulped flesh. Blood splattered the deck, both red and green. Though grievously wounded, Kyle matched Umbra's inhuman strength with pure iron will. A roundhouse kick shattered the Benzite's knee with an audible crunch. Umbra responded by raking his talons across Kyle's face, splitting his cheek to the bone. As they grappled in a whirlwind of violence, Kyle's eyes flicked to the viewscreen. Earth's orbital defenses were failing, Benzite ships tearing through them like tissue paper. It would all be over in minutes. In a flash of desperate inspiration, Kyle shifted his stance, luring Umbra into grabbing him in a rib-crushing bear hug. The alien's arms constricted like a python, the immense pressure snapping Kyle's ribs like dry twigs. Biting back a scream of agony, Kyle snaked his arms up and locked his hands around Umbra's head. With a primal roar of pain and determination, he wrenched with every last ounce of his strength. Umbra's neck snapped like a gunshot, the alien's body going limp in Kyle's grip. They collapsed in a heap, Umbra's corpse pinning Kyle to the gore-slicked floor. Darkness tunneled his vision as he dragged himself out from under the body. His shattered ribs grated, jagged ends sawing at his insides. Blood bubbled from his lips. Kyle crawled to the command console, leaving a smeared trail of crimson. Reaching up, he slammed a fist down on the comms button, the simple motion almost beyond him. "Umbra is dead," he rasped, his lungs burning. "Earth is off limits. Leave now or share his fate." As unconsciousness swallowed him, Kyle glimpsed the Benzite fleet turning, fleeing the solar system. A ghost of a smile flickered across his ravaged face. Earth was safe. He had done it. As his eyes slid shut and he slumped across the console, a final thought drifted through the encroaching oblivion. The war would go on. More battles waited, but he had bought Earth precious time with his own blood, a worthy trade. Darkness claimed him, and Kyle Scorer knew no more. The champion of humanity had given his all, and Earth would remember. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.